Happy New Year, everybody, and happy new decade. To end season 1 of the Acting Podcast and to start 2020, we're offering you a bonus episode, episode 13.
You want to book as much acting work as you can, as often as you can. We get that. The thing is, you don't book acting work by focusing on booking acting work. The industry is more dynamic than that, and the art is more interesting than that.
By taking you inside the craft, the casting room, and the business, and bringing other industry experts into the conversation, we dig in. We pull back the curtain of the industry and show you how much power you really have as an artist. And by bringing your humanity to the work and the industry, you become an artistic leader, the kind of actor who books work.
Even after decades of working with actors all over the world, in our classes at the BGB studio, teaching, coaching, casting, directing, producing, acting, on set, on stage, behind the camera, and in front, nothing excites us more than seeing you express your unique artistic voice, humanize the business, and book work doing it.
We're here on the podcast and in class at the BGB studio to give you all the tools you need to be a championship-level working actor right now in an industry that desperately needs your voice and your leadership.
Yeah, industry and artistry. This is the only place you're going to hear this.
I'm Risa.
And I'm Steve, and this is the Acting Podcast from the BGB studio. Hello, Risa.
Hi, Steve.
20 to the 20.
The roaring 20s, the new year, the new decade.
This is a new decade. This is an election year. Let's talk about that. Because no one else is, right? So we're the only ones who are talking about that.
But a lot of things coming into this year with a lot of
much
expectation and pressure and
so much
want and need and fear and anxiety and all those things.
And I wonder whether all of this just exists in our mind in as much as most European nations, so Western European nations anyways, adopted January 1st, by virtue of adopting the Gregorian calendar. Point is, it was a choice. Yeah. So what if, as Maya Angelou said, each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings? The horizon leans forward, offering a space to place new steps of change. What if this moment right here, you're looking at me like I'm going off on some tangent, which I am.
No,
but the idea is, what if each moment is considered a new year? But, collectively as a culture, we say this is the time when we reset, don't we?
And it's an opportunity to do that.
Of course, of course. I'm saying the opportunity exists.
Every day.
If you'd like.
Yeah.
Right? Every moment,
Yeah.
But all the same, we live in the world we live in. So I think what we have to do as it relates to actors is address some of these expectations, including but not limited to pilot season, whatever that is or looks like now. Is there one? Is there not? Et cetera.
Yeah.
And make sure that the mind is right before we take action. And this year, I think more than most, will be a year of action. Again, I think a lot of that is coming from the fact that it's an election cycle, and not just any election cycle, but a really contentious, divided, et cetera, election cycle that requires more than most election cycles, I think, that people step up and find their voice. And the industry will take its lead from that. Every room you walk into, every self-tape you send, that is seen by someone, is seen by someone who's in that same place as we are, as everyone is.
We need to do something. Yeah.
Something's got to get done.
Yeah.
It's going to affect the work. People aren't going to tolerate the passive, all that stuff. It's a time to get shit done and time for action.
And yet, a lot of people we know, a lot of actors in the work and also in the world don't really know what that looks like or feels like and feel this passivity in them and don't know how to break out of that and take action. So let's talk about what that actually looks like, where that comes from, why it's important, and how that actually manifests itself.
Yeah. I think a lot of people know that feeling of, especially right now, that I was going to the gym pretty consistently, exercising, stretching pretty consistently, in a pattern, felt great, the juices were flowing. Then the holidays happened, and I stopped going. And it's so hard to come back. And it would be so nice, like the momentum of that passivity, the momentum of that stagnancy needs to be overcome. So what do you do? Well, to quote Frozen 2, you do the next right thing, and it's one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And so, and I think in an industry that more, I would say now than ever, needs to be self-generated, self-directed, you have to find within, and it has to be within because no agent is going to save you, but from within, what is that desire that I have to express my art? And what are the steps that I can take today, right now, to express that art one step and then the next and then the next? We come back to this all the time, say it to death, but it bears repeating that shift from the practical idea and the wanting and the longing and the remembering of when you did good work on stage when you were 15 or whatever the thing is, to it's a random fucking Wednesday in January or whatever. It's time for me to pull out the 7-day calendar and write some shit and make it happen and call up the people that I need to call up. And if they're not available, call up someone else. And we're going to read a play tomorrow, and I'm going to get in class, and I'm going to shoot something by the end of the month, and I'm going to start doing. So that's what I think we mean by action, that you have to take the steps, and they're often helpful to be taken within a community, to express the art that is in your heart. And any sort of thinking or associating with your mind, or maybe I should, or but the last time I did that, and all that processing, and what if I get injured this time? You separate from all of that thought and just start taking action. Even if the action isn't necessarily in your mind something you can see a direct line to booking the procedural drama or whatever.
Well, you're looking for the direct line, and the direct line isn't there. It's a longer term thing, and you have to be in a place, in a mindset, and in a practice where those results will manifest, but it'll take a little bit of time.
Right.
And so it's about kicking your ass out of bed in the morning, even though it's cold outside or raining, or it feels like, what's the point, or it's so hard, and you're in that passive place, and let me just turn on Netflix and binge watch today, and then it's tomorrow and the day after. And so you're living in this place of passivity and inactivity. It's about taking those steps for their own sake, because you're trying to make yourself happy. Like, this is about fulfilling a need in yourself. And that's the thing and I also think, you said, doing it with other people, but it has to be often, if you cannot find a way to do it on your own initially, if you can't ignite that spark, if it's just not working, if you need another car and the jumper cables, then go get that.
Right.
It's not that hard. There's so many people out there that and you've met and you can collaborate with, who you can reach out to just for that little bit of support, that little bit of kick in the butt, and you can be accountable to each other.
And I think, beyond just and we felt this way sometimes, I know you and I, because we talk about it, like, let me just sit on the couch and do nothing. There's that version of the stagnancy. Then there's the other version of the stagnancy, which is let me focus all of my anxiety and energy into some, task, be it a meaningless one or the daily stuff of life, and I have to, the busy work, and then there's the other piece of it, which is right now, because it's the new year, and not just a new year, the start of a new decade, and it's an election cycle, and on and on and on. All of this stuff comes with an expectation that you should do something, or that something big is about to happen that you can be a part of or not, or all of that kind of stuff. So I think you also have to navigate that and come back to what is the next step that I can take today, right now. Like, you're listening to this podcast right now. What step can you take by the end of the day, by the end of the hour? Can you pause this right now, write down 3 things you're going to do today or this week that nurture your artistry, that help your career, or pursue whatever goal you want to pursue. But it comes down to the doing, and you can't get lost in the expectation of a new year, or the fear or the anxiety that prevents you from doing the things that you need to do.
Yeah, and we keep coming back to that. I mean, that's why we created the studio, and that's the work that we see actors doing here in class and outside of class that keeps us all fulfilled and happy. And that's what you got to keep coming back to. It's like, what is going to fill your soul? What is going to light you up?
Right.
Because that's the kind of work, and we've said this again a million times, but that is the kind of thing that not only is actionable, but also deeply, deeply satisfying. And you're a satisfied person, an artist who is in and of that. The world sees that in your work, and it translates, no matter how often you engage in that, and you can't hide from it. And that's the thing, is have the courage to stop hiding from yourself, from your talent, from the burning things that make you light up, and from a community of collaborators.
Because there, and you know this, as do I, there are 1,000,001 reasons why your dreams won't come true. And you can focus on those, right? And the industry is changing again, and it feels like it's narrowing, and it feels to a lot of people like there should be more work because of all these platforms, but there's not more work for me, and commercials have gone away, or they're changing, or I have the money, or I don't have the money, or blah, 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 blah. You can spend your time focusing on that stuff and start to identify with the struggle of that. And look, there are struggling actors who prefer to struggle on some level. They may not say it, this is some tough love here, but their behavior, the consistent practice of going back to those mental thought forms of it's too hard, it's elusive, oh, well, now this happened, and this pilot season, they don't want these kind of people, or this guy, it's, my agent, blah, 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 blah. You can focus on that, or you can choose to get to the doing. And now is the time for doing. The joy comes from the doing. So if we think our relationship to our mind, where all of that expectation lives, but also all of that trauma from past rejection lives, and also the elation of, ooh, one day I'll book that dream job and all my dreams will come true, all that stuff lives in the mind. If we spend too much time in the relationship to the mind, we start looking at ourselves critically, we start doubting, we start being in that place of entitlement, or but I deserve the job, or why isn't the agent doing this, that, or the other thing? And we have to disassociate from our mind, understand it to be a tool, like a hammer, and then you use the hammer and then you put it down. So you pull up the calendar, you use your brain to figure out exactly when I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing from a predecessorial standpoint, and then you put it down and you get to letting go and experiencing the art that you love. So now is not the time to get stuck in your mind and to let that prevent forward motion.
And that takes having the courage to, take some kind of physical steps, even. Like I said, get out of the house.
That's right.
Call somebody. Go out and do something, whatever that is. Meet somebody and just brainstorm something, and then be accountable to yourself and to that person and to the work that you've committed to doing, so that you have something to hold on to, because it's hard to do that in a conceptual way. You have to be able to do it in a practical way. There's an actor who is in class who's been writing a lot, and he's really, really gifted and has an incredibly unique voice. And he's just been, like he says, he's a changed person because he's writing now every day, and he's feeling like this drive to write. And in doing that, just because he's doing that so much, his voice is being articulated, and he's also said he's happy. And he realizes, because he was a big commercial actor and commercials did dry up for him, and he panicked. And now this writing that he's doing, and he has accountability to somebody else in class who he's writing with, and to this group project, it's changing him. And he realizes that he's a happier and more alive artist, and all that anxiety, all that waking up in the middle of the night and worrying about money and success, and will the agent drop me, and what will my career actually be, and all that is starting to really fade. And we all go there. I mean, this is something that everybody experiences.
For sure.
I know big fancy TV producers terrified now, that in the next little while will their pilot get picked up. And then I look at their resumes, and they just produced 5 huge shows in the last 10 years, and they have that same anxiety. The what?
And what's the 6th? And what if you only had 5 in you? And all of that stuff, right? That only gets worse.
And the stakes get higher, because
right.
How can I fail when I had that show that just finished 7 years, or
right.
And so it's not. You have to remember, as you're listening to this, that whatever you feel like, if you feel like you're outside the industry and your career is just not what you dreamt it would be. Everybody goes through this. We are in this really challenging industry where we're independent contractors, and we go from job to job, and it could be months or years in between jobs, and you have to not be right with that so much as realize that's what everybody is experiencing.
And it's not the fall. Everyone's going to have that stumble. It's how you recover. It's how you then come back to what you love and express that consistently. I remember pursuing an acting career, those dark, dark days, again, particularly after maybe I had a decent run of some work, so the ego started getting a little pumped up. And then you hit the desert again, and it's like you're drowning, like you just don't know what to do. And then the money starts drying up and you just hope for that next residual check will come in. It's like, playing the lottery every time you open up your mail. And the answer, at least for me, was always get out of the house. There are the things that I know that change my head, that get me out of my head and get me in the doing.
That's important. Yeah.
Even, by the way, if it's cleaning.
Yeah.
Even if it's going for a walk, if it's, for me, it was training martial arts, being around the people that I know support me and nurture me and challenge me. Not a bunch of people who are just going to be in this bitterness with me and nurture the bitterness. And get to the doing. And that's such an important thing that actors, apropos this discussion of the through line from A to Z, which doesn't exist, sometimes it's doing anything positive in and around art that starts shaking some things free. And you start radiating this different energy that people feel. And in particular, right now, there's something about this time right now where there's a lot of fear, and for any number of reasons, be it the election and climate change and on and on and on, right? That a rational person even might say, you know what? I'm going to sit this one out because it's too much. I'm going to just smoke some weed and just like turn on something to numb it all because I can't deal.
Yeah, but I want to say something to that too. And again, this is some tough love in here. If you're an actor and you're feeling so unhappy because you're not getting what you want out of this thing and you've been feeling that for a really long time, why not take a break? Why not say, you know what, I'm not going to do this for a little while.
I'll tell you why, because that would make someone feel like they're quitting.
Okay, but I get that.
I know where this is going.
No,
So I'm playing devil's advocate. Go ahead.
I know, and I get that. And sometimes
I can't do that, says the actor, because I've given so much. I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna, go home for the next spring break and say that I quit this thing. Because then what?
But so I'm not saying quit. I'm just saying refocus, take a pause, look at what else you can be doing with all of that energy. Watching so many actors who have come through our doors start to write and go, you know what? The acting isn't giving me this. I have a new rush. I have a new high now, and so I'm doing that now. That's exciting me, and the acting's fine, great, yeah, I'll do that. But I was going to write something for myself so I could star in my own show and star in my own reel. But now I feel like I'm in some other flow, and I'm producing, and I'm taking photographs, and I'm becoming a cinematographer, and et cetera, doing other things that light me up. Like for me, teaching is that. Right. I never thought this would be something that would be exciting and fill me up. But I've found a way to take all of the things that I've done for all of the years of my career and my life and incorporate them into this work. You don't give them up. You actually repurpose them. Right. And then when you come back to your acting, potentially, it has another life. It means something else. It doesn't necessarily have the same heaviness to it.
Sure.
And you come back to it with this renewed love of creating and making and collaborating and art, and who knows if it even is that. And I think that's important for you to take stock and realize that if you are living in the suffering of this thing, for whatever reasons you've gotten to that place, you've got to release that. And this is a great time of year to say, I release that to this new year, to this new moment, to this new decade, whatever you want to do, to call it. And I come back to myself and what is important to me and what I care about deeply and who I am as a creative force and what I want to do with that. And that's big stuff, but necessary. And I think we all have to do that so many times, and maybe I've just been through so many decades. So for me, another decade in some ways. But it's an opportunity to really take stock and be so honest with yourself. Right. There's nobody that's going to give you that but you. But
you know how to reinvent because you've always done it. And I think to the benefit of your career, it's something as small and ridiculous as some new software platform that you will admit, I know nothing about this, that, or the other thing, but you'll stop and get over it and do the work of learning it so then you know it.
I don't want to learn any more new platforms.
And yet you do all the time. And then you will say, like you always say, if I can learn it, anyone can learn it. So, but it's that notion, that beginner's mentality notion of
that's right. That's what that is.
clocking, ooh, we have to pivot right now
Yeah.
because for whatever reason we have to pivot. And in a business like this that is constantly changing, even though it may not feel that way, one must always pivot. I talked to an actor a couple days ago who said, what I've been doing for 15 years has always worked until 2 years ago, and now it's not working. And I don't know what to do. And so it's such a difficult thing, as you said, such a huge thing, because it means that there has to be a death and a rebirth. The identity that actor had with the way things work, the way the industry is, which is all wrapped up in that person's very survival, their livelihood, how they pay for their kids and put food on the table, et cetera, and also their self-esteem and their ego, their self-identity. They have identified with this notion of what this version of being an actor in Los Angeles, the good and the bad, means, and now it changes. Well, when you're asking them to let that go, they have to give that up. They have to give that identity up. And if their ego is so closely associated self with the characteristics of that thing, it can feel like a death that they want to then defend, even if it means suffering, even if it is what I'm defending is being a struggling actor, not an actor who thrives. So that's hard. And then at a time like this, you have to look at all that and take stock in that fierce inventory that they talk about, and figure out what's working and where you can where you have to adjust.
Yeah. No, I get that. And this is an important opportunity to reset. And also in that, taking ownership of yourself. What is your voice? Who are you in this? Who's giving you permission? What are you giving up? Like, why are you waiting for other people to tell you you're not worthy of a Netflix show because somebody just didn't see you or know you? The great thing that we're seeing out there in all of that is that the things are changing to some extent in how things are being made and how movies are being made, and Scorsese on Netflix, and how that is completely changing cinema, and people are freaking out all over the world about that. But what that does is it says, okay, renegotiate your relationship with the work in the industry.
Right.
He did it for his own good.
Yes, and.
Yeah. And so what does that look like to not lose your voice? To speak to another actor who's been writing, I've been working with in class, she got all these notes from everybody and was doing all these drafts, and it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And she finally said, you know what, I'm a people pleaser, and I wanted all of you, I wanted to take all your notes and please you to death, and I just was a big mess, and I lost my voice in this, and I went home and I cried and I threw it all away, and I went back to, I have to look at what I want to say, what my voice is in this, what story I want to tell, and all of those notes I'll have to trust will be there somewhere, or they won't, and I'm going back to my original inception of this thing, and I am starting again, speaking my truth, my version of this. And you know what? It was great. It was great. And she said, I learned a massive lesson in all of my work as an actor, as a parent, as a writer, that I have to honor what I want to say, what speaks from and to me. And I think that as actors, you don't even consider that. You're so busy trying to, fit into something and do what somebody says you're supposed to do. And and you give up this notion of deep, pure honoring of yourself and your voice.
And that's how you find your power, again, in the doing of that. Just coached an actor just before this, very, very talented, and she's been talented for a long time. And she was auditioning for something that casting said they didn't want to see her for which they didn't want to see her. And the agent was very honest with her and said, they said you're old news. And what does that even mean, And to her credit, she said, but I like this script, full stop. It's moving.
Good for her.
That's such
so great.
So she told the agent to tell them, I'm putting it on tape. So let's say nothing happens at it, because maybe who knows why they said that, right? They're busy. Who knows? They've offered it to somebody else. Who knows? But that action that she took is so empowering, and it is something that comes with momentum for her. And the more she can do that, the more she pushes back against some unconscious or negative force from the industry to create space for herself to do it again. And so she's creating these grooves in her neural pathways and also teaching her agent about that relationship.
That's right.
Just so you know, if you say no to me, I am not only willing, but able and will, if I like the script, I'm going to push for it anyways.
I love that so much. And you know what? Those casting people, when and if they see it, and I assume it might be a when, they may still have their opinions about what it is, but they'll remember that she did that she had the balls to, for a lack of a better word, that she had the courage, and the conviction to do that. And those are the kinds of actionable steps that you can take to make a difference. It makes you feel better. You're in and of the work, and people see that, and they respect you and receive you differently. And I have to say, I'm at a place in my career now where I'm getting a little bit older, and I'm talking to a lot of people, women especially, who are getting older. And if we buy into this ageism thing, or in this thing of being, when you said the thing about old news, and you let people define you as anything, to this or to that, then you make yourself small and you give up your power in all of this. And you could educate them in 2 seconds by saying, that's not really true. This is what I have to offer. This is where I'm coming from. This is my experience, my wisdom, but it takes self-knowing and it takes courage.
So there's a formula to this, actually, and it's stillness, awareness, intention, action. And arguably over the holidays was the new year, a time for stillness and reflection. If you haven't done that because the holidays were wild for you and lots of bases needing to be touched and whatever else, fine. Take that time now to stop, look at yourself, take stock, create that stillness so that you can hear and see what's going on inside. From that stillness, you can look and find the awareness. What is going on? Where am I at? How do I feel? What do I want? From that awareness, you create an intention. This is what I want. And then from that specific intention, no matter how antithetical to what your agent says it actually is, it is from that place that you take action. And that action is what we're talking about now, that doing, which means pulling out the calendar, making a schedule, creating accountability with a community, and then doing that damn thing. And the other step of that is if you miss a day because life happened, not engaging in that BS stuff of beating yourself up, and that's what I always do, coming back the next day and recovering and doing it again. So that's at least where we're coming from in terms of the intention of all of our classes here. This is the spirit that we're bringing to all of these classes, all the workshops in LA, Atlanta, New York, Vancouver, Chicago, beyond, because we feel so passionately about this. This is so important. We believe that artists can change the world, but it only happens when all of us get our heads out of our asses and then disassociate from our heads and our minds for a second to get shit done. And so it's going to be about the doing now. And by the way, because for us, we can't separate our politics from our art. It's just not who we are. We're going to do that politically as well, because our voices are important and they're meaningful.
Yeah, they are. And this is an opportunity for you to raise your voices in your work and in the world.
Amen.
And what we're going to do also is just remind you that we offered a New Year's meditation that addresses all of this and takes you through all of these steps if you need a little guidance. And we'll put that in our show notes for this podcast. And also, we're going to offer you our Pilot Season Playbook for free, which takes you through the steps of looking at pilot season on your own terms. And we want you to have that and go through that so that you can have a little bit of a guide and a structure to enter the next couple of months of the new year. And whatever pilot season is or isn't these days, it doesn't matter. It's what you decide it is. This is your time. Step up. We are thrilled and moved by the response to the podcast. We love reaching actors all over the world, actors like you, who tell us that our podcast inspires them, informs them, and makes them excited and proud to be an actor.
Yeah, but make no mistake, an acting career is won by being in the consistent practice of the work, week after week, month after month, year after year. Success for an actor is in the doing.
So, here at the BGB Studio, we offer the highest quality acting training for passionate, committed, talented, and ambitious actors. We see that kind of work transform talent into successful careers, and that makes us so happy.
There is no substitute for doing the work consistently, and we offer the work of success. We are the home of your 10,000 hours. We offer ongoing and 8-week on-camera auditions, scene study, and workout classes. They're available now.
So sign up now to secure your spot and get to work. Go to BraemanGarciaBraun.com/classes or click the link for classes in the podcast show notes. We'll see you in class. We love sharing this content with our community. We offer it 100% free, and it's our privilege to do so. If you're loving this podcast and are interested in offering something in return, go ahead and subscribe to the Acting Podcast. Then find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to your podcast and leave us an honest rating and review. Your words will help us bring this work to even more actors and artists around the world.
Thank you so much for listening and for being here with us. We love how this community shows up for us and for each other, online and in the studio. And as a thank you to our incredible community, we want to give you an amazing free gift. It's called the Comprehensive Guide to the Perfect Self-Tape.
So all you have to do is screenshot your review, send it to theactingpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll send you an exclusive gift of the Perfect Self-Tape Guide to take your work to the next level.
And come visit us online at thebgbstudio.com. And if you're in LA, Atlanta, or New York, jump into a class with us. We're here to get you into the kind of shape necessary to be successful.